Most people don't know this, and I'm gonna crack the cheat code for you. You ready for this? A salesperson's job? How often have you heard stories about people making bad financial decisions? How often have you heard someone potentially put themselves in a situation that is not possible to get out of unless they file for bankruptcy? There's probably so many stories out there that we can relate to where you make a decision that you thought was a good one, and then a few months later you're like, man, this was a terrible decision. I want to talk to you guys about a guy. I can't mention who he is, obviously. A dealership told me this story, and the time frame of it is irrelevant, but it happened recently. And I'm pretty shocked that this guy did this, because if I had to admit to you guys, this is probably one of the worst financial decisions you can make when it comes down to buying, selling, trading, all that good stuff. So with that being said, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I want to discuss and tell you the story. So I'm going to kind of break this video up a little bit, and I want to hear from you guys to watch this one all the way through, because there's always good advice from people who do take time to think things through. I am one of those people who walk very slow today, not in the past. In the past I was very fast, but today, before I make any financial decision, I walk pretty slow. And if I miss out on the deal, then I guess it wasn't meant to be. So again, subscribe to the channel, make sure you like the video, and let's jump into it. Now, most of you guys know that we lived in our RV full time for about 3 years, and for most of that time we did travel. Now, we were in Montana for about a month, and while we were there, I actually was able to help a professional horse racer, I guess you call it, barrel racer. I can't remember now. But I remember when they pulled in, their truck was having some issues and they needed to get to a race. They were probably about an hour away, and they asked me if I could help them get there. So I let them use my truck, and I'll be honest with you guys, I had no clue about horses, horse trailers, any of that stuff. I never did any research on it, so I had no clue how much horses could cost. But I want to say between trailer and horses, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of like $250,000. And that wasn't even their nice trailer, because they had one with living quarters, but the race they were going to didn't require them to have living quarters, so they were going to be to the race and back home, basically, in the same day. With that being said, this story I'm telling you is from a dealer. They told me the story. A guy who was a professional barrel racer, he actually was going to an event, and he had his trailer. He had a $250,000 horse trailer. Now, he did have a 2015 or 16 Ford F450, and his truck encountered some issues. Sometimes it's inevitable. If you have a truck, especially almost a decade old, you're bound to have issues. So here's a question in the comment section. Does it make sense to get your truck travel ready? I know that dealers offer things like that, some repair shops offer things like that, but sometimes, even if you do this, it's inevitable that you could have an issue, right? So here's how it goes. This professional barrel racer, was going up a grade, and as he's climbing this grade, he loses power. Now, the truck is still accelerating, but he notices that his speed is dropping. And I want to say he dropped down to somewhere in the 30, 40 mile an hour range until he got up to the top of the grade. Now, no check engine light. Obviously, you know, we all probably know, if you know anything about trucks, if you lose power significantly, it's probably because the turbo went out. So yes, his turbocharger goes out on his trip. Now, he doesn't know this because he's not automotively, and I don't want to judge anybody, but based off of what the dealership told me, he didn't know what happened to his truck. So he pulls over, finds a hotel, stays there for the night. This is a Friday evening. And so the next morning he calls the dealership. He drives his truck over. Truck drives great. Doesn't have any noises, no knocking, nothing like that. So no check engine light. So there's really no signs of, obviously, a failure. It's just his truck doesn't have boost. So he drives the truck over to the shop on a Saturday, and obviously you guys know, 9 times out of 10, if you find a master tech at a dealership on a Saturday, you really have favor, because it's very rare that they're even there to even look at cars, you know, to potentially repair them. Because even if they can repair it, if they need parts, things like that, sometimes parts are not available on Saturdays either. So he goes to the dealership, and they obviously tell him, hey, we don't have a master tech here. But the guy picked this particular dealership because they did have an F450. Now, I don't think I've told you guys, this guy had a I can't remember if it was a 15 or 16 Ford F450. And he had the truck, I think it didn't have a lot of miles. I think it had like somewhere in the neighborhood of 70, 80,000 miles on the truck. And he's like, well, if you guys can't fix my truck, how much would it cost to buy a new one? And so they're kind of running the numbers with them. Obviously, when you find a available F450, F450s can typically go over MSRP, and based on this time frame, that's probably what was going to happen. I mean, I want to say they probably had it for 15, 20 grand over. Now, unfortunately, you know, the guy was like, well, I need a truck, and that's what he only buys is 450s, and they have one available there. So he asked them, well, how much would you give me for my truck? And this is kind of why I'm telling you guys this story. If you have the cash, if you don't have the cash, or maybe you just gonna finance it anyway, so it don't matter. This is the biggest mistake you can make financially when it comes down to buying, selling, trading your truck. So obviously, I actually appreciate people who tell the truth, because I worked in the car business, and I can tell you, a lot of times when people trade in older cars, I would say 6 times out of 10, they're trading it because it has a problem. And sometimes you'll never know until your shop takes a look at it. I mean, we've seen people who had catastrophic failures that we would not have known about until, unfortunately, we ran through the shop and then noticed, oh wow, this car needs an engine. My friend, he's pretty bad at this too. He's done it before the dealerships where he's had modified Hellcats, went to the drag strip, had something happen, decided to trade the car in, and again, the car drove fine, but somewhere along the lines, he was able to take out the check engine light, take it there, and they never noticed that there was a potential catastrophic failure with that car. So I do appreciate when people are honest, right? But if you're someone who has a car, who has an issue, the worst thing you could do is trade that car. Especially if the dealership knows there's a problem. Because they basically told the guy, hey, we don't know what's wrong with your car or your F450. And we don't want to give you a number based on, you know, that issue. We don't know how much it could potentially be to fix it. And if it's something that's too expensive, we're probably just going to wholesale it out anyways. So I think the truck at the time with the mileage was probably worth somewhere around $45,000. They gave him like 20 for it. Basically, they gave him $25,000 less than what the truck was actually worth. Now, I know that some of you guys are going to disagree with that, but here's something you have to understand. I was in the car business. I understand dealers very well. One thing that you may not know about dealerships are sales and service are enemies. I know that some people are going to disagree with me on that, but it's just the truth. Some dealer owners do that on purpose. They make to where the sales department and the service department are two different entities. So in other words, when the sales department gets a used car in on trade-in and take it in to run it through the shop to see how much it's going to cost to get it reconditioned and whatever repairs need to be done, the bill will come back astronomically high for some cars, especially if it's like an older car. So in a lot of cases, dealerships will just wholesale cars out. Well, the owner won't allow you to do that sometimes. Sometimes you say, no, I want that car actually reconditioned and put on the lot. Because he makes money either way. He can't lose. So the reality is, the dealership on the sales side of things are going to probably always lowball just enough to where they have enough to make up the difference for reconditioning. So yes, in a lot of cases, sales kind of has their hands tied. And I understand that because at my old dealership, we started sending cars to a local shop that was like a small repair facility just to do like basic maintenance, brakes, things like that, because they were significantly cheaper. than where we were actually working. And unfortunately, the used car manager got fired for it because the owner got absolutely upset about it, and rightfully so. I mean, you're taking money out of his pocket, but at the same time, the owner was, in my mind, stealing from his sales department because he makes money either way. So with that being said, yes, 25 grand less is significant, but remember, the dealer told the customer it's better for you just to keep the truck. Well, as I said earlier in this video, these horse racers, these professional guys have crazy money. And so the guy said, you know what? You guys have an F450. You have what I want. I just want to just cut my losses and move on. So that's that. Guy took his brand new F450, hooked it up to a trailer, moved on down the road. Next week, dealership gets the truck in for service. And unfortunately for the customer, it was a very small repair. It's a very small repair. I guess a boost line or something like that came undone. And that's why the turbo lost boost. So I want to say that and a few other things, it probably equaled out to about $1,500, give or take. Now, I know some of you guys are going to say, well, why didn't the dealership call the customer back and say, hey, great news. Your truck is actually fixed and it's actually only a $15 repair bill. Do you want to come back and redo the paperwork? That way you can get more money for your trade-in, less what we had to pay for the repairs. Once a deal is done, the deal is done. It's just like if you were to sell your house, right, just before COVID. I mean, you can't go back and say, man, like, my neighbor just put his house up for sale for 50 grand more. I want to cancel this deal and relist it. I mean, once the deal is done, it's done, right? I mean, just because you see someone else making more profit than you doesn't necessarily mean you can change the deal. And so, rightfully so, I mean, the dealer, in my humble opinion, did right by the customer by saying, hey, just keep the truck. And that's what I would have done. If I am working and I have somewhere to be, I probably would have just found a truck to rent. Today you have Turo, you have a lot of different services out there. Enterprise typically has heavy duty trucks available. And in some cases, I mean, granted, you could probably find someone to tow your trailer, like a hot shot or something like that. But I do understand that professional horse racers don't like people towing their trailer and their horses, because I learned that too. Because when I helped the professional horse racer, they actually drove my truck. They said literally it was part of the deal for them was I have to tow the trailer. And rightfully so. Again, it's $250,000 back there, so I get it. But I say all that to say this. Anytime you're making a financial decision, especially one this big, don't do it under pressure. I mean, this guy probably spent 15 grand too much for the new truck and lost $25,000 of his trade-in value on the truck he was giving up. I mean, I think it was just a bad deal all the way around. Now granted, the dealership did right by him on his trade-in. They said keep the truck, and they didn't want to do that because they were ready to part ways because, again, pressure. Cancel your trip and figure out things, you know, as you go. I know that there are some bad dealerships out there, but this translates in every state at every dealership. Buyers are liars. I'm not trying to be a dealer advocate here, but I'm just being brutally honest. For you people on the outside of this thing, I worked in the car business for almost a decade, actually over a decade. And the things I've seen and heard, you would never believe. I don't think that dealers do enough talking about these things. People make bad financial decisions on their own. You don't need a dealership to help you. And a lot of people don't know this. Let me tell you a little secret about a salesperson's job. Most people don't know this, and I'm gonna crack the cheat code for you. You ready for this? A salesperson's job is to sell you something. You probably didn't know that. And I just taught you something that you had no clue about. Yes, their job is to sell you something. So when you go to a dealership and expect them to talk you out of buying a car, you're an idiot. They're going to do everything they can to sell you a car. Never seen a salesperson say, you know what, I don't want to sell you this car. It's not a good deal for you. It's not a good deal for you, but it's a great deal for me. I mean, I've never heard someone do that. It's like when you go to sell your house. I mean, if you bought a house back in the 1980s and now the house is worth $300,000 more, you're going to just say, well, I'm going to do half of that because I think that is fair for you and me. No one's going to do that. Everyone's going to get top dollar for their car, top dollar for their home. And you just have to be smart enough to decipher whether it's a good deal for you or not. See you guys in the next video.